Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Entertainment Review. This weekend I watched two movies that kind of stood out to me. Those movies being David Lynch's Blue Velvet and, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing this, René Laloux's Fantastic Planet. Honestly, these movies probably couldn't be any more different from each other. Blue Velvet is a small town murder mystery and Fantastic Planet is basically about... I'm just gonna put pictures up of Fantastic Planet. You can guess what that movie's about, you can look it up, but it's totally crazy. So, why am I mentioning these two movies in the same vein when they're really not similar at all? Well, it's because they do have one thing in common that they evoke from the audience. That being the sense of, what in the world did I just watch? They're extremely bizarre movies. You know, and seeing that kind of got me thinking, why do directors, creative people who make these movies, why make them so weird? What's a part of the decision making behind making something as bizarre as a Fantastic Planet? Well, let's think about that. I want to start this by actually taking a look at a movie that I personally don't even like that much. Another David Lynch movie, Eraserhead. I just want to give you context for the situation I was in when I first watched this. It was 7 a.m. at a Honda while my oil was getting changed. And for some reason, I was sitting there and I was like, yeah, let's watch this. And I don't think I was prepared at all for the experience that I was about to have. Here's a little rundown of the plot. A man is invited to his girlfriend's house for dinner. Seems pretty normal. But the dinner is extremely awkward. He ends up being told that his girlfriend was pregnant with his child and has already given birth to the baby, and she's going to move into his house with the baby. A little weird, honestly just really weird, but it gets so much worse. Flash forward a little bit, this is the baby. That is the baby that they had. I honestly could not tell at all what was happening in this movie in terms of what the plot was. What David Lynch does here is lean so heavy into the abstract that you can almost not even tell what's happening. To note, I want to specifically bring up the titular title scene, whatever you want to call it, the scene where this movie gets its name. It just kind of freaks you out and you don't really know what to think about any of this. You're left just super confused and really grossed out by the end of the movie. I think that's exactly what Lynch wanted when he made Eraserhead. Eraserhead at its core is a movie about sin, specifically the sin of a premarital relationship, and the baby, this weird little baby, is quite literally the fruit of this sin. Now, Lynch's choice of this really unorthodox way of communicating this idea, I think, is more effective than really any other traditional story that he could have told. These super visceral images that he plants in your mind end up lingering in the back of your head, I think, for much longer than any just normal story could. So, it's bizarre, it's weird, I don't even understand it completely, but it sticks with you and you think about it. And I think that was Lynch's exact goal when he was making the movie. Like I said, I'm not a super big fan of Eraserhead. I thought it was really weird and I couldn't really get into it. But I think it's worth a watch. It's just the kind of experience that you can't really put into words. You just have to sit there and watch it for yourself. Another film that I want to kind of bring up is from the Daniels, who you will probably recognize for Everything Everywhere All at Once, which just totally swept the Oscars. But I want to talk about the movie they made before that, Swiss Army Man. Swiss Army Man is a movie about learning to enjoy life to its fullest and living purposefully. Sounds pretty sweet, right? Well, it opens up with Paul Dano, the main character, getting ready to kill himself on a deserted island when Daniel Radcliffe's corpse appears, and then they ride off to the mainland where together they frolic around for the entire movie and learn to enjoy life together. When, like I said, Daniel Radcliffe is basically just a corpse. Not to mention that Daniel Radcliffe's character acts as the Swiss Army Man. His body is capable of doing everything from being a compass to being a motorboat. So he's very versatile in that aspect, but it's a really bizarre concept, and honestly, one that you wouldn't think would work for serious moments. But it does, oddly enough. It is an incredibly endearing movie that has a pretty impactful ending, if you ask me. I think the premise does a good job of reeling you in at the beginning, because you're kind of just thinking to yourself, where in the world is this even going to lead? And where it ends up leading ends up being a super heartfelt message, which I really enjoy. The creative choice to have this super weird idea that just doesn't seem like it's going to work, I think is what makes it stand out from a lot of other movies with similar messages and makes it worth your time. Looking at all of this weird stuff, and we could talk about movies like this all day, it gets to a point where you have to kind of ask yourself, is all of this pretentious? And the answer is probably just, yeah, it is. But I think that most of these movies are pretty self-aware of exactly what they're trying to be. And once you can get into that, there's a lot to enjoy from these. So the next time you're looking for a movie, maybe find something that just seems a bit off and watch it. It might just be weird, pretentious garbage. That is a possibility. I've watched plenty of movies like that. You might just end up finding something that will kind of get you off guard. This is Entertainment Review. I'll see you next time.